He's accused of avoiding tax payments on $1.7 million of his income. He also faces the more serious charge of grand larceny, which carries a 5 to 15-year prison sentence if convicted. The next court appearance is on September the 20th, Joe.
Yeah, John Heilman, how much of a threat is this to the Trump organization and to Donald Trump specifically?
Well, I think, Joe, there's a couple different questions, right? One is there's the, what now happens with this investigation? And, the reporting now out of the investigation itself is that, the prosecutors are making very clear that this is the first stage of an ongoing investigation and that the next phase of the investigation turns itself more directly to Donald Trump than what we've currently seen. So there's a question about whether Weisselberg ends up flipping when it starts to get more serious for him. If he starts to look like he's going to face jail time, will he become a cooperator? We've seen that happen before. People like Michael Cohen, who said they would take a bullet for Donald Trump, and then when they started to face jail time, they suddenly turned around and said, oh, no, well, maybe now that I'm looking at jail time, I'm going to try to help prosecutors. So that's one question. What's Donald Trump's legal jeopardy? There's a lot of questions coming out of this case from yesterday. Really, the case is much more serious than it had been portrayed prior to its unveiling, right? There was this kind of attempt to spin that's still going on by the president and others who are like, oh, this is just, corporate perks. They have a little bookkeeping sleight of hand. No, what we saw yesterday in this indictment was this is a massive, serious tax fraud case in which the company was apparently keeping essentially separate books. These are not perks that were getting paid and not taxes not appropriately paid. This is millions of dollars of compensation in a large-scale organization-wide scheme to evade federal taxes, state taxes, and city taxes. So the case itself is much more serious. It's raised a lot of questions. If Alan Weisselberg was keeping a separate set of books for Alan Weisselberg, is it really possible that Alan Weisselberg wasn't keeping a separate set of books for Donald Trump's children? That's a good question. We don't know the answer to that yet, but that's one way in which the Trump family on a legal front could be implicated going forward. And then there's the other larger question, and I know I pointed you to this morning. Kurt Eichenwald, investigative journalist who's covered business and financial fraud and crime for a long time, did an important thread yesterday on Twitter where he said, look, here's the real threat to the company. Put the legal thing aside. If they have been keeping a separate set of books, they are in violation of loan covenants, all of the loans that the Trump organization has. And they are a highly leveraged business, like a lot of real estate businesses. And on the 12th count of the indictment, it says they're charging Weisselberg with exactly that, falsifying the company's records. And if that is true and proven, they are in violation of every loan covenant that they have, the Trump company is. And that could bring about the end of the company if all of those loans are in breach and the lenders decide to say, hey, you guys have been convicted of keeping separate books. We're calling in our loans, pay them back right now. The company can't, and the loans could go away. And that looks like an existential threat to the business itself, aside from the legal threat that Donald Trump and his family might face in the investigation going forward.
Let's bring in some legal experts to the conversation. Former Chief Assistant DA in the Manhattan District Attorney's Office, Daniel Alonzo. He's a partner at the Buckley Law Office in New York and an MSNBC legal analyst. Also with us, State Attorney for Palm Beach County, Dave Ehrenberg. Daniel, I'll start with you. Based on what you saw yesterday when these indictments were unsealed,